Today's shout out goes to Tim from Charleston, South Carolina, who gave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can write reviews and they help our show grow. So Tim said, "Your content is stuff all guys need to know." We agree with you, Tim. Thank you for the 5-star review. Nick and I are giggly geese over here because the way that we link the audio and video together is before each episode starts, we clap so we have a spike in the sound so we can line it up. So before the episode started, I said, "Nick, give me the clap when you're ready." We were not talking about chlamydia. All right, Nick, do you have some wealth wisdom for us?
Yes, the wealth wisdom of the week is to not play the lottery because you probably won't win.
That is fantastic advice.
At some point, it does make sense to play the lottery, but yeah, it has to be in the few billions of dollars after taxes and the lump sum and all that.
I think it's a waste. I would not play the lottery. Although I have played the lottery before. Have you ever, not like the actual Mega Millions or anything like that, but have you ever bought scratch-offs before?
Yeah, I mean, I've bought scratch-offs. I've played the Mega Millions. It's like kind of fun as long as you're not doing it to, well, I mean, of course you're doing it to win the money, but as long as you're not, I don't know, it is fun in some way. So as long as you're doing it for the fun of it, then...
I was on a road trip with a friend in college, and each time we stopped to like get gas or go to the bathroom, we each bought one of the $1 ones, just as like a thing at each stop. And one of the times he won like $5, and one of the times I won like $2. So it paid for like our water, or I think we got like an energy drink too to stay awake. So it paid for like what we stopped and got at the gas stations. Not the gas, but the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, and for some people, they can become real problems. Like, I don't know if I've told this story on the show before, but one summer I was working construction, and it was a union job, so you get all kinds of characters. And one dude would, I swear to God, he would spend $50 on lottery tickets every single break. And we had 2 breaks a day. So he was spending a few $100s a day on lottery tickets, and he would stand by the lotto machine and tell people which ones to buy, like which ones are hot. So he had some system all worked out. So if you think you have a system going for playing the Powerball or lottery tickets, you should probably stop.
You're in too deep.
Yeah.
So I think the weights and wealth takeaway here is do not play the lottery. Especially if you're playing to win.
Yeah, and this kind of goes for sports betting as well.
Yeah.
Although I did hit a 7-leg parlay the other day. Won some good money with that.
What would you get, 10x or 100x your money?
So it was 100x, but this was, I had T. Higgins when they were playing the Bills, when, what's that guy's name, got hit?
DeMar Hamlin,
Yeah.
The game got canceled, and they just canceled that leg for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I bet $10 and won 500. So, yeah.
Pretty lucrative.
But it was like I couldn't have lost money on it because the platform I was going through ran some promo where
it was like a free bet.
It's like insurance. Yeah. So I would have gotten the $10 back had I lost.
We don't recommend sports gambling though. So for March Madness coming up, bet responsibly. All right, what is our... we have an intro article here. With our new format here on Weights and Wealth, we've usually got like Weights or Wealth Wisdom, a shout-out, an intro article. Today's intro article is... I'll just read the title. Man drove stolen truck to Florida Space Force Base on presidential mission to warn of aliens, deputies say. And basically, it's this crazy-looking guy, classic Florida man mugshot. But article goes on to say that he stole an F-150, drove it onto a Space Force base, and tried to tell them that aliens and Chinese dragons were coming to attack America. And it was his personal mission to tell the president. What's the best Florida man story you've ever seen? Do you know?
I don't know. I can't even think of any right now, but I do know that if you type Florida man and then a date into Google, something will always come up.
I remember one time there's a meme that was like, I forget what state it was, but it was that some state was going to become the new Florida man, because it was like a headline that was like Iowa man that did something, and the meme was just about how that state was going to become the new like Florida man state.
Hold on one sec. I gotta fix the headphones.
All right. Nick will lead us in here to today's topic on the wealth side. We're doing trendy investments and trendy workouts. So Nick will go over some of the worst trendy investments that you've probably seen floating around social media lately.
Yeah. So the biggest one for the past few years has been crypto. And
Are you saying I won't make money on NFTs, Nick?
Well, you could potentially. I mean, nobody really knows. Like, does that thing have any value? That's really the question for crypto and NFTs is, does it have any value? And that kind of gets into like what a currency is worth. It's really only worth something because people believe it's worth something. And that's kind of how crypto is to an extent. But my problem with crypto is that people look at it as an investment, and until it's seen as its own currency, because people pretty much only compare a Bitcoin to what it's worth in US dollars. And until like you think of, oh, I can buy a car that's quarter of a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't think that it can ever be used widely or really have any value until people see it as its own currency.
But if you're trying to buy drugs on the black market, then it's got value, right?
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically with NFTs and crypto, it's just a very speculative investment. So you shouldn't put all your money into it like some people have done over the past few years. But if you want to put a percent of your investment in, if you actually like track what you're investing and you have a budget and you have everything laid out, if you want to throw a percent or two at a speculative investment like that, well, I'd say why not, you know?
Yeah, this is like the 5 to 10% that you can kind of play around with your portfolio a little bit, like buy interesting companies that you like, or crypto or something like that.
Yeah, gold or metals I have in that same kind of category. A little bit different. I would say it's not that 5%. It's like a different 5%, but the same kind of number, like 0 to 5%. I would say gold and silver or metals is good, because a really good book on gold throughout history of empires crashing and getting built is by Ray Dalio. It's called The Changing World Order, I think. It's a pretty long read, but it's really good at going throughout history and showing, it shows a lot of different things, but one of the things throughout the book is how and when the value of gold spikes. And it's basically whenever the world order shifts and an empire like the Dutch or like the British Empire or like the American dollar now is the main world order right now. So that's probably the next one to fall, obviously, because it's the current one. When that falls, gold will probably spike again, just like every other time that the empire at the top of the world order has fallen. So having a little bit of metals for when or if that happens is probably a smart play. It's not going to be your whole portfolio, but having a little bit just in case.
Did he kind of explain why that is? Like, does gold kind of take over as the world currency until like the number 2 country becomes the number 1, and that becomes the general currency?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, people don't know sense. When a fiat currency falls, people don't know like what's valuable, and gold just kind of spikes up and then rapidly comes back down. So if you have gold when that happens, you can then sell and make a huge profit on gold when it spikes all the way up. Of course, when you're in that cycle, you don't know how far up gold still has to go and when it's going to come back down. But I guess once it's up, try not to be too greedy and sell. You don't know how long it's going to last, but sell a portion, kind of like dollar cost averaging, sell a little bit, sell a little bit, and then hopefully you made money off that investment.
Yeah. Did he explain why gold became the, I guess, standard currency in the first place? Because I've always kind of wondered that, because you don't really, I don't think you use gold for that much. I know it's not very
inherently valuable, which is the weird thing about gold.
Yeah, I guess it's just bright and shiny, and people like that. Like, I wonder why it wasn't something useful like steel or copper or something that could actually be used.
I've always wondered the same thing. I think he hit on it, but I read it a while ago, so I don't remember what the answer to that is. But I think he definitely went into that a little bit, and it definitely is strange that gold winds up being the most valuable metal, I guess, when like it's, again, like you said, copper or steel is obviously much more valuable. But it's a good book if you want to check it out.
So we were talking crypto. Oh, and then that kind of goes into Forex trading too a little bit. I was talking with a buddy at work just the other day, and he was saying that he was drunk at a bar and some guy convinced him to get into Forex trading because he could make a killing. He told me he lost like $800 the first day. And
what is Forex trading?
It's just trading currencies.
Okay.
So, you'll trade the US dollar for yen or something like that. If you think that the yen's going to go up, US dollar is going to go down. Which, I mean, I think like currency trading evolved started with the Rothschilds. Do you know them?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that, though.
I think they essentially created like the banking system in Europe. And the way they built it was trading currencies. And at the time, there was, a much larger barrier because you had to actually travel to trade it. Now it's just all done online, which is why it's really hard to make money because you're competing against people who really know what they're doing. I know we talked about that earlier with our stock trading a little bit.
Currency exchange always reminds me of the episode of The Office where they go on like a business trip to Toronto, I think, and Michael goes to exchange, I think, all of his American dollars for Canadian dollars, but then he gets hit with a fee at the booth, and then he like immediately trades it back to American dollars, so he gets hit with the fee again. So he starts with like 800 and winds up with like 700, all in the matter of like 2 minutes.
I don't remember that episode.
I'm pretty sure that's The Office. Yeah. Such a gem of a show.
Yeah. But back to crypto. So I know you brought up the Dutch a little bit ago. Have you heard of Tulip Mania?
Yes. I guess I'll let you explain it. But yeah, this is...
Yeah, so I think this was the 15 or 1600s.
Yeah, yep.
Where tulips, for whatever reason, just people started using them as currency.
Yeah,
and
like bulbs.
They were viewed as extremely valuable, and there were markets created for them. I think the Dutch invented the forward and the future. So there were forward markets for it, which, do you know what a forward is?
Was it just like futures, like for stocks?
There's a difference between a future and a forward. I'm not exactly clear on it, but it's essentially when you agree to buy something in the future at a set price.
Okay.
So there were like just markets for these tulip bulbs, just because people thought they were valuable, and then it eventually crashed when people realized it's a flower.
It's the Dogecoin of 1571.
Yep. Which, yeah, it kind of reminds me of, or crypto reminds me of that.
Yeah.
So like this has kind of happened before, and I'm sure there's other instances throughout history where something that doesn't have any inherent value became valuable just because people thought it was.
Purely through speculation, and everyone else is buying it, so I got to get in on it too.
Yeah. Kind of like the pet rock of the 70s. But people would pay $20 to buy a rock, and it's genius.
If you are young and you don't know the pet rock story, I mean, it was before our time, obviously, but I heard about it from my dad growing up. But
I think my dad had one. I think he had a pet rock.
If you don't know what the pet rock is, Google pet rock, and it's ridiculous.
Just some company decided selling rocks as pets, and it caught on.
Got anything else for us for worst trendy investments?
I don't think I had anything else for crypto. Did you have anything to add on the Tulip Mania? I haven't.
You did a good job explaining it.
Read up on it in a while.
Yeah,
but
just one of those things my dad told me about when I guess he was telling us about stocks growing up. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing is Airbnb arbitrage. I see that on TikTok a lot, and I mean it can work. It's just really, really hard. There's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. And essentially what arbitrage in general is when you buy something from somebody and then you can sell it to somebody else for more money. So you're kind of like a middleman, and you just take essentially a commission. And what Airbnb arbitrage is, you'll rent an apartment from somebody each month. You'll pay, say, $1,000, and then you put it up on Airbnb. And you can generally make more from short-term rentals just because they are short-term, and there's, a lot more work that has to go into running an Airbnb.
As long as enough of the nights of that month have someone visiting it,
right,
then you'll make more money.
Yeah.
Like you might need 8 or 9 days out of that month to break even, depending on how much you're charging.
Yeah. So in Airbnb arbitrage, it's not just being a middleman. You're also taking on the risk of being able to rent it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, say you rent it for $100 a night, you get 20 nights, $2,000. You're paying the landlord $1,000. You profit $1,000. But the problem is, it's really hard to get a landlord to agree to that, because it's risky for them, because short-term renters tend to not take care of things as well as a long-term renter. Mm-hmm. The one nice thing is, though, that they're guaranteed to have, like, you are paying them every month. So they have a renter, but they're risking
You're
damage.
The one essentially taking on the risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people that have been doing the Airbnb arbitrage, there's articles coming out about people that are renting from a landlord and not telling the landlord that they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And there's like some landlords have clauses that you're not allowed to like sublet mm-hmm. a apartment that you're renting from them. So people are starting to get into trouble with that. So if you do plan on doing Airbnb arbitrage, I have a friend right now that's been picking up like rents on different houses for like a year, and now he's Airbnb arbitraging those out, and he seems to be doing well. Keep in mind that you do have to pay for like cleaning fees and stuff like that for the apartments when you Airbnb them. And also just check and make sure with whoever you're renting from that you're allowed to sublet the apartment.
Yeah, that's very important. You definitely have to clear it with the landlord first. And most lease agreements from any larger landlord will include something that you can't sublet it, and that you have to go through them first. So that's the first barrier. The second barrier is a lot of towns don't allow short-term rentals, or there's a lot of paperwork that you have to do to get it zoned properly to be a short-term rental. And when you're doing the Airbnb arbitrage, you're also risking that the laws can change and it could just put you out of business. Mm-hmm. And you could be, 6 months into a 12-month lease, and all of a sudden you can't do it anymore, and then you still have to cover the rent for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely riskier doing the short-term rentals compared to doing longer rentals in like a single family or multifamily unit that you own. Mm-hmm. The Super Bowl recently in Phoenix, there was a guy that had like 50 different rental properties in Phoenix that he was Airbnb-ing. And I think he said like half of them didn't have anyone stay in them. So really? He lost a ton of money. Because obviously like the Super Bowl was going to be a huge time for him, for his Airbnbs. Mm-hmm. So also, whenever you're doing something like an Airbnb arbitrage instead of a longer term rental, if the economy changes and people have less discretionary spending during COVID and stuff like that, things like that can happen that, like Nick said, can just put you out of business just like that. And you could be left with all these payments, but no one traveling.
Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what happened. Like the Airbnb market has just tanked recently because of COVID. Yeah. It could shoot back up again. I don't know. Just as people are starting to travel more.
Well, we're also in a looming / already ongoing recession right now. So discretionary spending is probably going to keep declining with higher interest rates. If the Fed does wind up increasing interest rates to try to get unemployment to go up, to get inflation to go down, then when unemployment goes up, people have less spending, obviously, because they don't have jobs. So there's a certain percentage. I mean, that's how recessions happen, right? Like unemployment goes up, people have less money to spend, people default on loans, and it looks like we're in that beginning of the recession right now.
Yeah, but the odd part is, I know we touched on it in one episode, that discretionary spending has continued to go up despite being in a recession, which is odd.
That's our most viewed reel on Instagram, that clip.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Was that the one that I reposted on my story, maybe?
Might have been, yeah.
Okay.
So, guys, if you share us on your story, we'll get more views, I guess. So, if you like our content, go share us.
And then you could also win the $5 Starbucks gift card.
Yes. Yep. Who's our last winner? Aiden, I think.
Yeah.
We've got another one coming this month, March. So be sure to keep sharing our content. And whenever we see someone share our stuff, we mark it down on a Google Sheet and keep track of who's sharing, and then do a little spinner spin.
But I think that was pretty much it on Airbnb. I mean, you're taking on risk and there's reward for that, but there are definitely some pitfalls for it.
And there's no such thing as like a safe investment, but generally with the bulk of our money, we want to go towards those safer investments, like a long-term rental or the index funds that we talk about.
Yeah. And I was just talking with Ted the other day, or with Earl after our episode a few times ago. But I kind of want to buy a house soon and then eventually turn it into a rental. I think I would just do more long-term renting. But I mean, short-term is always an option.
Yeah. Did you hear of the wolf of Airbnb? He's trying to brand himself as like the wolf of Wall Street, the wolf of Airbnb.
No.
All right. It's this guy in New York City. I think so for the COVID rent, like laws or statutes that went into place, there was like you didn't have to pay your landlord if you couldn't pay them, right? There was some sort of a hold on payments.
I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So he had all these different apartments, wasn't paying the landlords, but was doing Airbnb arbitrage with all these different apartments. And he made like hundreds of thousands of dollars because he wasn't paying the landlords the rent on all these different apartments. And now he's going to jail. So
yeah, that's funny.
So don't be a bad person.
Oh, and do you want to guess what the best Airbnb is, like the ones that are most profitable?
Is it the really like custom weird ones? Like
sort of
treehouse ones, or like living inside a potato, stuff like that.
Maybe, I don't know. There's probably not too much data on that one, but kind of like that. They're like the tiny homes out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, just with the costs and how much you can charge for them, they do the best. Which,
good to know.
That's another thought I've had, just buying a plot of land and getting like one of those Home Depot pre-made houses. Yeah. I think that'd be kind of neat for a little bit.
I think I need more space than that. I don't think I would like a tiny home.
No?
Kind of a big guy. Having to duck everywhere.
I think I could do it for a little bit.
Well, you're short. So.
Well, I'm not... I'm not that much shorter than you.
All right. Moving on to...
I do have one more.
Oh, okay.
It's the whole life insurance.
All right.
Now, I haven't done the math in a while, but it's promoted all over TikTok and by people who sell life insurance. And there's a reason for that. It's because they make the most money off of whole life insurance, which generally means that you're getting the short end of the stick if the person who's selling it is making a better commission. And I haven't done the math on it in a while, but people try to spin it as if you're like being your own bank, you're putting money away, and then you can take a loan against it. But I haven't done the math on it in a while, but the rate of return is just horrible. I know wealthy people use it to skirt taxes somehow. I'm not exactly sure how, but you have to have a lot of money for it to make sense for the tax savings.
Okay.
But
maybe we can do a more in-depth dive on that in another episode. If you guys want us to do that, just let us know. Moving on to the worst trendy workouts. I was joking with Nick before this episode began that I basically just listen to whatever my fiance Alex tells me about different workouts she's heard of and made those that list. Sorry, babe. So our number one is hot or sauna workouts. People, for some reason, think that they're burning infinitely more calories because they're sweating. As we've said before on this show, the amount that you sweat does not equal the amount of calories you burned. So the big thing with the hot sauna workouts is you're heavily reducing your capacity for output, right? You're not going to be able to lift very much at all in an extremely hot room. So you might sweat a lot, but you're not able to lift very much. So the adaptation that you're looking for with lifting, which is muscle or strength gain, you're not getting that by reducing your capacity to lift. So the only time that I would say reducing your capacity to lift more actually results in any kind of gains would be with blood flow restriction training. And that's just through, you know what blood flow restriction training is? It's like when you put like a cuff and you basically reduce like the blood flow. And then it's like a lot of metabolic fatigue on the muscle because there's not enough blood going in to take out the toxins or the byproducts like the lactic acid, carbon dioxide, and there's not enough blood going in to supply the muscle tissue with what it needs. So you get like a really big burn. I think its main application is if you're injured, you can use really light weight and still get a workout.
Okay. And then how about those masks? Those like oxygen masks that restrict the oxygen? Is that similar or is that? Yeah,
so I think people use that to increase their VO2 max. I think it looks dumb. I would never do it.
So it's more of an endurance thing and a lung thing than a muscle thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I know I see a lot of people talk about the difference between training and working out. Just because you feel sore after a workout or because you sweat a lot doesn't mean that you're getting stronger.
Yeah, we're looking for progression over time, and that's more complicated than just going into the gym and doing whatever you want. The next worst trendy workout is the optimal / anti-free weight trend. This is very common in the Instagram hypertrophy world where they tell you to do like a weird exercise with an 8-minute setup with all these different cables and bands this way. It's a lot of times if your setup for a certain exercise takes more than like a minute or two, it's probably just like not worth your time to do. And a lot of these exercises that they're showing rely heavily on EMG data where they're putting the sensors on the muscles and seeing which muscles are activated with these sensors when the exercise is performed. But the thing about a muscle being activated during an exercise is that doesn't tell you how much tension is on the muscle. So EMG data like really isn't it's not the gold standard, but these people on Instagram that are all about the most efficient, optimal exercise for each muscle, oftentimes with this EMG data, they tout it as the gold standard, but it's not. So I think there's a big misunderstanding there. I've done posts before using EMG data on Tesla Help, but like it's just a tool, but it's not a gold standard for how effective an exercise is.
And then what do you think about calisthenics? Because I see that a lot as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's another tool. During COVID, I did a little calisthenics and bands phase. And it was good to have that variation in my workouts. I think a lot of people, especially people that lift really heavy, could benefit from like a body weight phase, even though we, of course, don't enjoy it as much as ripping some heavy deadlifts. But I don't think it's optimal from a muscle or strength building perspective because you just don't have a lot of load, especially for lower body exercises. It's very hard to load any kind of like a hinge or a squat pattern.
Yeah, I do love doing my pull-ups though. I do a lot of
Yeah.
weighted pull-ups.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like most of the most effective exercises come from these bodyweight movements, like pull-ups and chin-ups. Those are some of my favorite back exercises, especially once you start loading them with weight. Dips, great exercise, especially once you start loading them with weight. Squats, great exercise, especially once you start loading them with weight. But that's the takeaway here is if you can load those exercise more, you're going to get way better hypertrophy and strength gains. You're just going to be able to put more tension on the muscle and more load, obviously, through more weight. So the next worst trendy workout is I just added this one right before the show because Alex and I were driving through Mount Pleasant yesterday, and we saw like on the strip mall, I guess, we saw one of these studios. I forget what it was called, but it's a bungee cord bouncing workout studio. Have you ever seen these?
No, I don't even. Okay, well, when you said that, I was thinking of like the Russian trampoline video. Have you seen that?
I think
or
I know what
German
you're talking
maybe.
about. Yeah,
where they're just on the
yelling.
trampoline, just jumping all over the place.
Yeah, they're bouncing on the trampolines and like
just
doing
very
these jumps.
quick. Yeah.
So there's that, like the mini trampolines, and then also there's these places where there's like these bungee cords hanging from the ceiling and you strap in and you're doing like all these like jumps. And it's like jazzercise on bungee cords on steroids.
Oh man.
But that's not going to be the most effective workout, people. Come on. What are we doing here? The best tools for working out are going to be a dumbbell and a barbell, in my opinion. And I mean, those are like the oldest weights we have. I guess Indian clubs might be considered the oldest weights, or a kettlebell. But those free weights are going to give you the best bang for your buck with these workouts. So ditch the $300 a month bungee cord bouncing jazzercise and pick up some weights. The last worst trendy workout we have, might get some hate for this. It's group fitness classes. I hate group fitness classes because, well, there's a couple reasons. Were you about to say something?
No.
Okay. So one of the problems with group fitness classes, and this doesn't apply to all of them, but it does apply to a lot of them. And I've taught group fitness classes before. I'll just preface this with, when I was working at Gold's, I had to each of the trainers had to do a certain amount of these morning boot camp classes. So I had to find a way to strategically implement a decent program and stimulus into these boot camp classes. And I'll get into how I did that. So if you do group fitness classes, you can see what that might look like. But one of the biggest problems with group fitness classes is that the majority of them don't have rest periods in them, which if you're trying to build muscle and strength and increase your metabolism, if it's a HIIT or in reality a circuit workout and there's not really any rest periods, you're not going to build muscle. You're building endurance. It's cardio with weights at that point. This is probably the most common thing that you see with group fitness classes. It's very rare you see a group fitness class that has 2-minute rests in it, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be one of the biggest problems with the group fitness classes. Another one is that the movements that they do, I would say, are typically suboptimal. But I mean, that's okay. You can still get a lot of, like for Orange Theory, for example, they still have dumbbells there and there's still decent exercises that they're doing. So I'd say it's still okay. But the big thing is the circuit aspect and the high intensity cardio aspect of it.
Yeah, I did a few Orange Theory classes, and you wear like that heart rate band, so everybody's heart rate's up on the wall. And even during like the weights section, everybody's heart rate was, mine wasn't, just because I'd been lifting for a while, but everybody else's heart rate was still through the roof while they were lifting. Yeah.
I did Orange Theory once as well with my aunt when I was in, might have been middle school or high school. But when you put those monitors on, everyone's thing is up on the TV. and you can see how many points you have from your heart rate being in different elevated zones. And so to me, it was a competition.
Oh yeah, that's what I was, because I wanted my heart rate to be the highest the entire time.
So I won. My whole family thought that was hilarious and makes fun of me for that, for winning Orange Theory. But I guess that's what happens when you're competitive. But yeah, I mean, winning, you're actually losing there, because if your heart rate's elevated the whole time, you're doing too much cardio and you're not getting the adaptation that we're looking for from weight training. Another problem with group fitness classes is that if a lot of times beginners are more inclined to do group fitness classes, which means their form is more likely to be improper or downright atrocious a lot of times, and you have one instructor with 30 people or however many people there are in the class. And if you have a bunch of beginners that don't know what they're doing, I feel like this is especially a big problem with CrossFit. If you're at a box that doesn't have good coaches, a lot of CrossFit boxes do have good coaches, and they'll help teach you. They won't just make you do Olympic lifts. But if you're in a crappy CrossFit box or a group fitness class that's doing compound or Olympic movements with beginners that don't know what they're doing, I feel like that's a recipe for disaster for all the people in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because the instructor doesn't have time to sit with everybody one-on-one and help fix their form. Like, they walk around and will tweak you here and there, but they don't have enough time to dedicate to just fixing your form.
Yeah. At the boot camp classes that I mentioned when I was at Gold's, typically it was early morning, so typically we'd only have like 5 to 10 people, so it was a lot more manageable. And the way that I organized it was typically like some people were resting while other people were lifting. So it basically cut in like half the amount of people that were lifting at once. So it was a lot more manageable for me to help people if they were doing something incorrectly. And then the other thing that I did, because I said I would talk about how I organized it, is I introduced some sort of like sled work to the boot camp thing, so that if people wanted that like go kind of thing, I could force rest periods in, but I could also give them what they wanted with like a continuous movement for a couple of minutes, like sled work, where I could throw them on a sled or battle ropes for a couple of minutes and then have them take their rest. So they were getting that elevated heart rate and they felt like they were doing what they signed up for, but I actually tricked them into lifting properly.
Yeah, that's something I hear a lot of trainers talk about, where if a client wants to do something that you know isn't optimal, but they really want to do it, you kind of have to do it anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the hard parts with training is these people are paying you for a service, right? Especially if you're working like in person, one-on-one, they're paying you for a service. So you can't just be like, no, we're actually going to do this. You have to kind of give them what they want. So for trainers out there looking for help with that, I would say one of the things that I always do is I ask people right off the bat, part of my intake is I ask them what their favorite exercises are and what their least favorite exercises are. And I'll give them some of their favorite exercises, and I'll work their favorite exercises into the program that I have for them, because I make a custom program for all my clients. And then if normally in that program, I would have some of their least favorite exercises, like a Bulgarian split squat that a lot of people hate. Then I'll take that out and sub in something that they don't hate. That way it's enjoyable for them. And then also just taking them through different phases, right? If someone really likes lifting heavy, then we'll do a lot of heavy lifting, but we'll go through other phases that also give them what they need and give them a break from heavy lifting. Same thing if they don't like heavy lifting. We'll primarily do that 8 to 12, 15 to 20 type rep range, but then we'll do some phases of heavy lifting to introduce them to it. And I've had clients before that thought they liked one thing, thought they liked the really lightweight, almost like cardio circuit type of stuff. But then once they do a heavy phase with that kind of like 3 to 6 rep range, they wind up loving it. And then that's all they want to do, you know? So just guiding your clients through all these different phases, different styles of of exercise is very helpful to them so that they know what they like, what they don't like, and also gives them variation. And I think that's how you should lift in general. We talked about calisthenics earlier. It's really good for you if you want to be in this for the long run to understand all these different types of modalities. Like Nick and I both said, we've done Orange Theory before. We've done calisthenics before. It's good for you long term if you have these different options, so that if something becomes off the table for you, whether through injury or something with your lifestyle changes, maybe
or COVID.
Yeah,
like
COVID
hit.
Yeah, things happen in your life, and it's good if you have different options so that you can just plug and play with what option is going to fit your lifestyle at that time. And I think that's also kind of true with investing, right? If your lifestyle changes, you might have to change your investment strategy a little bit to cater to whatever lifestyle changes have happened or circumstances have happened in your life, but you still want to be investing. You still want to be lifting, right? You might just have to change it up a little bit.
Right, yeah, because as you get older, you tend to do less risky investments because you want to have a set amount of income every month. So you're not going to invest in crypto, for example, because that could tank and you could lose all your money like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now I'm still not. I know a lot of people like to go into bonds when they retire, which are very stable, but the return is just horrible.
Yeah.
So. And then same thing with like life insurance. When you get married, you have to allocate some of your money to life insurance. And
do you have life insurance, Nick?
I mean, I do through work. It comes with. It's just a benefit,
Yeah.
But no, I don't have any other life insurance.
It'd be a shame if something happened. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. I thought this was a fun episode. So started off with giving Nick the clap here. So as always, be sure to share the podcast with your friends and family, or give us that 5-star review or subscription or like or whatever. I mean, all the platforms are different. So whatever you can do, we appreciate it. And let us know what you want to learn about.